Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm going to have a little chat with you about how to develop some skills that you must have in order to have a healthy romantic relationship, okay? So I'm going to go through some things that I personally went through and my transformation and why sometimes it can be really difficult to see and to experience the fact that some people have really, really happy, healthy relationships. They're, really content in their marriages. And yet there are so many other people that are just not experiencing the same thing. And they go through multiple divorces and things like that. And it's kind of crazy actually to think of how there can be so much difference in the romantic relationships that we have between different human beings, and seeing that, right? Seeing the difference. What's the difference between a really happy, content couple and the couple that's getting a divorce? What's going on there? So, a lot of you may know, unless you're someone who's new to my channel, that I struggled a lot with my romantic relationships when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. And it wasn't until I really met a girl that I liked that I thought things were going to go really well with, and they didn't actually they basically started to back away from me, basically. So we'd seen each other a little bit, and then she decided that she didn't want to be with me. She decided that she didn't want to spend more time with me, and she kind of slowly started pulling away from me. And that's when I started getting into like learning about dating techniques and stuff, because it was out of desperation. And that's why a lot of people come to my channel. They're in a desperate state of, they feel like they're losing someone, whether it's an ex or whether it's someone they've been dating, and they're trying to figure out how to make her or him more attractive, how to get them back, how to pull them back. And that's where I started too. And then over the years, I learned a lot more about dating, relationships, how to attract the women that I liked. And eventually I met my future wife, and then we got married, and now we're having a kid. So there was I had a huge transformation basically. And I hope that maybe this video can be the kickstart for your transformation too. So one of the things that I've noticed is that it all kind of stems from childhood, right? So with me, my parents, have been together for the long haul, right? They aren't exactly the most loving couple, shall we say. They are sometimes, but there is a lot of nagging. There is a lot of that kind of thing going on with them. They're great parents, don't get me wrong, but they do nag at each other quite a lot, and yeah, it's just not it's just not ideal, right? It's not ideal. Okay. So that I think had an effect on me and my idea of romantic relationships, because I could tell growing up that that wasn't the reality. Like, there are other couples who did not do those things, and I witnessed those other couples, right? The parents of the friends of my parents, for example, they were extremely happy with each other, extremely loving towards each other, never had a bad word to say about each other. So I knew that the dynamic that my parents had isn't exactly the same for every couple. Okay. So I realized that, and so I thought, okay, so I guess I didn't really think it, but it just kind of dawned on me that I needed to get romantic influences from somewhere else, right? So as a kid, I mean, you can't really get that much information from, you can only get so much information from the people around you. So what I would do is I would watch a lot of romantic comedies, a lot of romantic movies, those kinds of things, TV shows. And that also gave me a false narrative, right? Because there was a lot of being overly romantic in these movies. Because obviously these movies were so, like, there's only like 2 hours, right? There's only so much you can fit in there. There's only so much character development you can fit in there. There's only so much romance you can put in there. And so they go by like these big grand gestures, usually in movies and stuff. So that's where I picked up a lot of my tips from, my romantic tips, right? For when I was younger, right? And basically that, it screwed me over essentially, because I thought then, oh, if I like a girl, right, if I'm interested in someone, I need to make a grand gesture. I need to tell her that I'm in love with her, or I need to write her a romantic letter, something like that. And that didn't do me any favors, right? Because I used to do that kind of thing when I was a teenager, and it never ended the way that I wanted it to, right? Because basically I was going from being their friend to being apparently totally head over heels in love with them, and that would confuse them. So that's why it's not a good idea, if you like someone, to tell them that you're in love with them, because that's going to go from 0 to 100. It's going to make them feel uncomfortable. They're not going to know why suddenly out of the blue you're suddenly in love with them and saying all these things and stuff. So it's always the best idea, and this is why I say this in my videos, is that if you like someone, just ask them out. Just ask, because they're going to know what that means, right? They're going to know that if by you asking them out, they're going to know that, oh yeah, they're asking me out because they like me, because they're interested in me. Now, I don't mean ask out as in, will you be my girlfriend? That kind of asking out. That's not what I mean. I mean asking them out on a date, right? So what you say to them is something like, hey, you know what? I think you're actually really cute. Especially if it's someone you've known for a long time. Say, hey, you know, I think you're really cute. And I'd like to get to know you better. When are you available? You know, are you available this weekend? You know, ask them that kind of thing. And then if they feel the same way, if they are interested in you too, they will let you know. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm free on Saturday, I'm free Sunday, I'm free Wednesday evening, you know, those kinds of things. And if they're not interested, then they will just decline, right? Or they'll come up with an excuse or something like that. But basically, essentially, if you're not getting a hell yes enthusiastically, and instead you're getting someone that's like, you know, I don't know, or yeah, I'm a bit busy recently, it means no, okay? So you're looking for those yeses, essentially, right? So, so what I've discovered then is that if you've had influences in your life, whether that be your parents or siblings, maybe perhaps anyone that's sort of cared for you in any capacity, if you've seen relationships that weren't exactly very happy ones, right, and that was your primary source of information when it came to romantic relationships, then it's very unlikely that you will have a healthy romantic relationship in the future unless you work on some things, okay? Because if you work on yourself and you learn what the right behaviors are and what the wrong behaviors are, then you're more likely to have a more happier romantic relationship. So one of the big issues between men and women, right, and this is why there can be a lot of conflict between them, is that men are expecting women to think and act like men, and women are expecting men to think and act like women, right? This is why you often see, you know, like the nagging wife, right? Because what she's trying to do, she's trying to improve him. She's trying to get him to step up or whatever. And he doesn't like that he's being criticized, right? Because men don't typically like criticism unless it's constructive or actually helpful, right? But if it's actual just criticism, like, oh, why don't you ever wash the dishes? Why don't you ever pick up the kids from school? Whatever it may be, whatever excuse, whatever thing that they're complaining about, right? Men don't like that, right? It's not a good idea to do that. And things like that. So it's a common thing that you see with couples of these issues. But the thing is that if two women got together and they started to sort of like help each other with these kinds of things, like, oh yeah, you should really do this, you should really do that. They like that. They like that feedback. But men don't typically like that as much, right? Men much prefer to, you know, figure these things out on their own, in their own time, that kind of thing. Whereas women can be sometimes a little bit pushy with that sort of thing. So, as well with men, is that when a woman is upset about something, what a man would like is that if he was upset, then he would want someone to give him some sort of resolution, right? It's like, okay, right, so you're worried about this, yeah, you need to do this, right? Here's the 10 steps you need to take, here's the manual, right, for you to figure this out. Whereas women, they would much prefer it to just talk about it, right? That's how a woman sort of unwinds, right? What you need to remember is that a woman's mind is kind of like a ball of wire, right? And the more she talks about it, the more she opens up, the more she talks about her feelings, the more she tells you the stories about what's going on with her, the better she starts to feel and the more she unwinds, right? This is why some people feel like, oh yeah, that person's so uptight and all that kind of stuff. Whereas men, you know, when they come across a problem, they would prefer just to offering a solution, right? But that a woman doesn't just want a solution. Sometimes all she really wants is to just talk about her feelings, right? So she can unwind that ball of wire in her head, right? And that makes her feel better. That gives her relief, right? A man usually gets relief straight away from just a solution, right, to his problem, something he can use to fix it, right? So those kind of things can come into play as well. So men sometimes make the mistake of just offering solutions to their wife or their girlfriend, when in reality all that the girlfriend or wife wants is to just chat about it, right? Just have a talk and have a discussion. That's usually all that she wants, right? And it's quite easy to actually do this kind of thing, because a lot of men think, oh no, but you know, that's going to take a long time and all that kind of stuff. You know, I don't really know how to communicate with her. What should I say? What should I do? But the thing is, you don't really have to say much. You don't really need to do anything. All you need to do is sit there, be present with her, listen to her, and ask questions, right? You don't have to like try and do anything. You don't have to try and resolve it for her unless she specifically asks you for the help. All you have to do is, you know, that when she's telling you things, all you got to say is, oh, really? What happened next? What did so-and-so think of that? Or what else? Or how did that make you feel? Right? Those are the questions that you need to ask. And also maybe sometimes just acknowledging that you're still listening, like, oh, really? Uh-huh. Oh, really? Interesting. You know, those kinds of things. And being solely present with her as well at the same time. You should, when you're talking to a woman, it's a good idea to not be trying to do something else like fishing or playing a video game or watching TV. It's good if a woman is coming to you and you can tell that she's concerned about something, to stop whatever it is that you're doing to listen to her. Okay. And another thing that women don't typically like is they don't really like it when their men withdraw to do these kinds of things, like go fishing, watch TV, go play golf with their friends, you know, play a video game, or just sit in the man cave and just sort of like have a think and have a stew over things, right? Women don't like that because they feel like the man is withdrawing, right? And that makes her feel abandoned in a way, right? That makes her feel insecure when a man withdraws like that. And I've seen this with my parents, for example. So my mum will like say something to my dad, and then my dad won't reply because he's too busy watching TV. Like he won't say anything. And I've seen that kind of thing. But what I've noticed is that when he's doing that, it's because he is in his man cave, essentially. He is at that stage where he's sort of like withdrawn, right? And what women need to understand is that men need to sometimes withdraw, right? And sometimes they need to withdraw at least once a day to just do their own thing, to just sort of sit and be, right? Because like a woman's brain is like a ball of wire. Sometimes men need nothing in their brain. They need space, or they just need to do whatever the task is at hand. They just need to concentrate on one thing, like playing a video game or watching the news, or focusing on the sports that's going on, right? They want to get involved solely on what's in front of them, right? They need that blank space, right? They need that clearness, shall we say. And then what women have got to realize is that once a man is finished doing what he's doing, he will feel better. He will feel relief from that quietness, from that empty space, and he will then come to her, right, after that. Right, so women need to let men withdraw, and sometimes it can be difficult because sometimes the woman may want to talk and the man simultaneously wants to withdraw, so then some sort of compromise needs to come into play. The man may need to say something like, look, I just need 20 minutes to just sit and then we can talk about it when I'm finished, basically. Or the woman needs to say something like, look, can we just talk for 20 minutes and then you can go and have your alone time or whatever, or your gaming time or TV time, whatever it may be, right? So there needs to be a lot more understanding that men and women are different, right? And that the differences aren't necessarily bad, right? There's nothing more superior, right? There's no the men needing to withdraw is no more superior than the woman that needs to talk or anything like that. There's no superiority here, right? But you've got to understand and appreciate the differences, and you've got to understand the differences in order for a relationship to work, okay? Another mistake that I see happening with a lot of couples is that once they've found someone to settle down with, they essentially give up. They stop dating, they stop courting, they stop spending that quality time together like they did at the beginning of the relationship, right? And that's what you need to get back to, right? If you're in a relationship that's perhaps failing, or you feel like it's failing, then you need to think back on what did we used to do together at the beginning of the relationship, maybe even before we even got together, like, those first few dates and those kinds of things. What did we used to do? What are the activities that we used to do? How did I used to hold her or hold him? How did I used to like talk to him or her? How did we do that? And get back to that place, right? Try and find a way back to that place. And sometimes it can just be a couple of dates and things suddenly go back on track with your relationship, okay? But all these things can be very, very difficult if you didn't have the role models growing up to understand, right? And this is why some people may come across my opinions and my videos on these topics and actually get quite angry, right? Because it's going against a fundamental belief that they've grown up with, right? Essentially. So it can be very tricky for some people to actually change and want to change, right? But if you are really looking for a healthy relationship and you really want a healthy relationship, a happy one that lasts the test of time, then that's crucial. You need to learn these kinds of things. You need to understand that, perhaps growing up in the household that I did, having the influences that I had, perhaps that messed me up a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean that you should go around pointing fingers at people like, you screwed me over when it comes to my relationships. That's not what I'm saying you do. Because most of the time, those people couldn't help it either, because they grew up in similar circumstances too. And it's just perpetuated over the generations, right? So you shouldn't go pointing fingers and blaming people, because they did the best that they could with what they knew, right? And that's essentially how most people are, right? So you shouldn't go blaming people or anything like that. But you should be aware that, okay, so maybe these things that I've learned about relationships have come from the wrong places, right? And now it's time for me to get back on track. I need to understand that men and women are different, and that, we've got to appreciate our differences. And I've got to learn that, we've got to communicate with each other effectively, and we've got to continue dating each other throughout the relationship. And those are the things that are going to really help you maintain a healthy and happy relationship. And sometimes awareness is key. Awareness is that, awareness that you just haven't had the best influences can sometimes just be curative. And then you can go out and seek more information about that. So I highly recommend, if you want some help with your romantic relationships, to go and check out my dating and relationship recommendation books, which you'll be able to find in the Amazon link in the description of this video. You don't have to purchase any of them through those links, because if you do, I will get a small commission, but because of that, there'll be no extra charge to you or anything like that. But if you want to, you can just write down the titles of those books and go and check them out at your local library, or find cheaper versions online like eBay or something like that. But those are there for you if you want to go and have a look. And there are 5 books on personal development, and there are 5 books on dating and relationships. You should be able to tell which ones are which through the titles. So thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.